So what we have here is an IFAM, which I believe is a Spanish make of lock. There it is actuating the cam. This lock has 14 discs, I believe, all of which have, or nearly all of which have false gates. It's got things that make this lock difficult to pick, as well as the false gates. It's got a strange profiling, so these teeth aren't opposite each other. I think one of the kryptonites has a feature similar to this, so the cutouts on the key aren't symmetrical. So what this means is, if you wanted to fit a pick inside of here, you would have to have cutouts on the pick to accommodate the irregular profiling. As well as the number of discs and the false gates, another thing that makes this lock difficult to pick is the front free spinning disc. So this isn't just drill protection, this disc has a gate on it in the 0 position, but you can't tension from the front disc. If you try tensioning the lock from the front disc, it just spins all day. So you might say, well, why don't I just pick up on the second disc? And if that second disc isn't a 0 disc, you can use the trick of putting all the other discs into what feels like the true gate, finding the actual 0 with the picking tip, and then rotating the tensioner back. And that won't work on a free spinning front disc, because when you move your tensioner back round to move the second disc that you're using to tension into position, you'll be moving the front 0 free spinner out of position, so you'll never be able to get the sidebar to fall in to all the gates at once if you try tensioning from the front. Luckily we can tension the lock from the rear, which is what we're going to do. So therefore I'll be using the silver bullet in rear tension mode with the small tensioning tip. Here it is, with my mark on there. Right, let's try and pick this lock, eh? So all the way in. So we know that front disc is a 0, so we can set it to 0, we just can't use it for tension. So I'll do that. And then I'll go right to the back of the pack and try and feel for binders. It's actually quite a fun lock to pick. The spacings are 1.6mm per disc stroke washer pairing. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going through the pack and I'm putting every disc into a gate or another. Whether that's a false gate or a real gate isn't really important right now. I'll sort the false gates out from the real gates later on. Let's go to the back of the pack again. Oh no, it's a binder. I'd say this is probably the closest thing to an Abloy I've ever met, apart from the Abloy knockoffs of Classic and Profile, and there's an Abloy knockoff of ProTech in a way. Tokos have done, well, I say knockoff, it's got some of its own unique features, but it is very similar to ProTech in many ways. Not this, sorry, the Tokos. It's the Pro 400 it's called. Okay, so that's in a false gate. Let's move that one. It's actually, yeah, quite a good lock. I like this one. So everything feels like it's in a gate or another now. So now I just need to go through and tell which ones are in the wrong gates. I do that by feeling for the one that's stiff, just like normal. One of the discs will be biting against the sidebar more than another, and even though it's in a false gate, it'll still be tight. It's just that there are 14 of them in here, so it can take some time. Feels better. Okay, so the second one, yeah, that one. Okay, so now I can feel the sidebars biting down really hard, so we know we're getting close. I'm having to come off tension a fair way as well in order to move the discs, so again that's a good indication that you're getting close to picking the lock. Oh, there we go. She's picked, see the cam moving now. One of the other cool features about this lock as well, let's lock it back up again, is, you know, the old gut poop attack with a lot of Abloy cam locks where it's got the copper washer on the back and you can just hit the disc pack hard enough or push the disc pack and all the guts will pop out of the back. The copper washer, sorry, will deform and everything will spill out. So these have mitigated it somewhat. Instead of a copper washer, they're using, it's like a key ring sort of thing. So it's steel and it's sprung and it's quite good. It does help a hell of a lot to resist those punching attacks. Yeah. Okay, let's get her opened, I suppose. Need a smaller screwdriver. It is a bit of a pain to get the spring steel circlip out, that's the only problem with it. It's a lot easier to get the copper washers out of the cam locks. I need something else. Smaller screwdriver. Can't see one, let's go with this. Fine. This is good. Let's try this one. Come on. No, that's not getting behind it. I need something to get in and behind it. I think I know exactly the thing. Only do this with a tough and gnarled lockpick. Like this one. This one should do the trick quite nicely. There we go, that's better. Okay, put your hand over it because it will go flying. That's better. Okay, so you can see this sprung type steel, which, like I say, is definitely better. And let's dump the pack so we can have a look at these discs. So there's the sidebar. Sidebar. That's the free spinning front zero disc with the irregular profiling. This lock actually came with two spacers, two washers behind the front spinning zero disc, and I'm guessing that was to pad a bit of empty space out in the lock. Then if you can see that, we've got some false gaugage there, either side of the true gate. And that's on most of the discs, not all of them, most of them. I think I'm right in saying the 5 straight zeros don't have the false gates and everything else does. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah, 10, 11, 12, 13 discs. 10. 13 or 14? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, sorry. 13 discs. In fact, I might put them out on the table so we can see them a bit easier. The free spinner with its accompanying two washers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, yeah, 13, sorry, not 14 discs. Let's have a closer look at that. And that is the IFAM.